My name is Shimeng. Later on, I will show you how to spell the name. And first, before we start, let's look at these pictures. Anyone who know who draw these paintings?
Darwin.
Yes. I believe some of you have read some reading articles. If you're doing the Read Fluently project, you might have already read about Da Vinci, who's a very talented artist and inventor of the Renaissance time. So these pictures are sketches left by Da Vinci. What is very interesting is that people found many very mysterious design of mechanicals and structures, and these structures are very similar to today's design of some automatic devices. That's the most interesting things. So today my topic of presentation is history and future trends of automation. I will give a brief introduction on these topics. And here is my name. You can write this down. So let's see first what is exactly automation. Actually, when we are talking about automation, we are talking about a lot of things, including mathematics, control theory, mechanics, electronics, and even computer science. So you can see automation is a very comprehensive subject which integrates a lot of multiple disciplines. I believe when I talk about automation, some of you might immediately think about robot and robotics. Especially this week, Google has announced an advanced version of this very famous four-leg robot, the big dog, which is called the Atlas. So you can see from this picture, these are the big dogs, these are Atlas. From the video announced by Google, you can see that Atlas, or the motion and movement of Atlas, is very similar to real human being. It can walk, it can run, open the doors, it can bend and kneel and pick up things on the ground and put things on the shelf purely automatically, without any teleoperation from human operators. Well, robot is a very interesting subset of automation, but it is not all about automation. According to the definition I pick up from the Springer Handbook of Automation, automation involves machines, tools, devices, installations and systems that are platforms developed by humans to perform a given set of activities without human involvement during the activities. So according to this definition, in our modern life, almost everything can be categorized as automation. For example, like trains, airplanes, automobiles, elevators, and production lines in factory, and even computers. So after we figure out what is exactly automation, we're going to look at the antiquity and early modern period. I believe every one of you have known that the usage of tools marked the beginning of civilization of human being. From today, humans learn to design and make tools to help them complete very complicated tasks. It seems predestinated that someday humans are going to make extremely complicated tools to help them complete extremely complicated tasks. In the early modern period, automatic devices are very simple. I'm going to show you a very interesting example. This is anyone who knows what this is?
A Japanese traditional garden.
Yes, it's a traditional decoration in Japanese garden. Japanese people like to put this in your garden, usually on the bank of a brook or pools. You can see it used the principle of a lever. When the water fill up the bamboo tube, the gravitation will make the tube to rotate, and the water will be spilling out. When the tube is empty again, rotation will make the tube gravitation will rotate the tube back to the original position. At the same time, it would make a nice sound. Physically, this can be seen as the simplest automatic devices. The reason why I introduced this is in early modern period, automatic devices are all share the same idea, which is they all rely on natural power. You can see in the medieval Europe, people design water mill, windmill, and water clock. All of these rely on either water power or wind power. And later on, people invented purely mechanical structures relying on clockwork and springs and gears. I once watched a movie called Hugo. I don't know if anyone of you have watched this movie. It's basically a science fiction movie. In this movie, there was a robot boy. When people wind up the clockwork and springs, it can automatically draw a picture on the paper without any human operation. When I first saw this in the movie, I just can't believe such thing would exist in real life because it doesn't need any electric power or battery or even computer programming. So it's very amazing. But later on, I finally found where the movie gets its idea. You can see this. This was a toy made in Switzerland in the 1970s, and this one was a clock made by English people, and this was a present from England to the ancient emperor of China in almost 200 years ago. So you can see all of these are purely mechanical structures without batteries. What I need to mention is that when you look at details of this, when you look at how they move its pen and hand, you can find that the movement of this is quite similar to today's Cartesian robot. Basically, the motion can be divided into motions along two axes in the plane. So you can see it's very amazing that early people have already come up with ideas like that. And then we come to the 19th century. During the 19th century, steam machine was invented, and at the same time, people learned how to generate electricity power and store electricity power. At that time, in order to build huge ships to travel across the ocean, and in order to have a higher productivity in their big factories, people built a whole set of complicated mathematical theory, which is the classical control theory. Within the category of classical control theory, the stability of a control system is the most important criteria for evaluating the feasibility of the system. The basic idea of classical control theory is the feedback control principle, which means people will use the input and the current state of the system, compare these two values, and use the difference to address as a reference for adjusting your input. For example, if you want to control the temperature of a furnace, first you need to put some fuel into the furnace, and then at the same time you have to look at the real temperature of the furnace and compare it with your target goal to adjust the amount of fuel you use and ventilations and things like that. Classical control theory is very good at dealing with systems with single input and single output with stationary parameters. But when the structure of the system gets more complicated, especially when there's some randomness into parameters, using classical control theory is very hard to give nice performance. So later on, people established modern control theory in the end of the 19th century. And during the two world wars, people used these theories to control airplanes and build weapons and send out missiles and so on. all of these push people to find better solutions to deal with system with multiple input and output and some randomness in parameters. And later on, during the Cold War, the digital computer was invented. This made people to be able to complete even more amazing tasks like launching artificial satellites or even build space stations. So nowadays, automation is almost in every corner of our society, from industry production to public transportation and even to people's home. And I'm going to show you some hot topics of today's automation. Let's see a video.
The time factor plays a key role in the process of getting a product from its manufacturer to its point of sale, because radio frequency identification is a new technology that significantly increases the efficiency of this process chain. With RFID, data are transferred without physical contact. In addition, RFID helps positively identify shipping units. In an instant, valuable information is recorded and utilized on an international scale. This example demonstrates how it functions in practice. The process chain begins with production and continues by way of a central warehouse onto the retailer.
So this is the RFID technology. The idea of RFID is basically putting on radio frequency tags on goods and productions. When people use facility to scan those tags, the information of the goods are directly recorded in a database. So the manager can look at real-time information of his supply chain to trace the transformation of his goods to see if they're shipped to the right place or if they're lost or damaged, and so on. So it helps people better complete the task of optimizing their supply chain. And other interesting topics are like cybernetic robot arms. And this is a collaborative design network in which people, designers from different places in the world, they're very far from each other, can work on the same design project at the same time under this framework. So these are current hot topics. As automation and technology free people from dangerous and hard physical labors, there are also some worries about the negative impacts of technology on people's life.
This is a robot arm Mark II. It's a bit more powerful, a bit faster, and a clap activation.
So it's very crazy. It's a feeding robot arm designed for how disabled people to eat. But in the video, you can see some bugs happening in the programming. It's very crazy. Maybe such situation will never happen in real life because it's just too crazy. But it do reflect people's worry about potential negative influence of technology. Examples include when people first invented elevators, people start to use elevators to, they stop, just walk upstairs using their own legs, even though they live on the second floor. When automobiles are invented, people start to use cars to go out, even though they're just going to the market a few steps away from their home. So, and what is more, terrible is that the time saved by using technologies are all wasted on boring social networks and cell phones and things like that. So I believe those things are important concerns that people have to pay more attention in future development of technologies. So these basically is all that presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Audience members, questions, please. Yes, David?
So with automation development, so what is like the highest level of automation at the end? Like, so when it's developing, like at the end it will go all automation. So then people won't rely on themselves. So it's how do you solve that? Right? I mean.
I forgot to mention one thing is that today's concern in the field of automation is that after addressing as high level of automation as possible, people start to shift their focus to finding a way that technology and machines can collaborate with people better. Instead of pursuing a higher level of automation, they start to find a way to make machines more intelligent, like cybernetics or things like that. I believe that might be the final result of development of technology.
Okay. Any other questions?
You believe in academic areas, so technology or automation is more helpful or useful to people, or we can say is more help people work or cheat.
It's a very interesting question. Well, with the help of automation, it is true that people can save a lot of effort finding a solution by themselves. For example, you can just search the internet to find solutions to your problem instead of think about it or talk about a problem with your friends. But I guess we cannot say it's cheating because people are facing more difficult problems instead of dealing with basic problems.
I would say that because I know there's something like Warframe symbol labs, because you could like put a function or equation in there, you can just get the answer. You don't even need to like calculate. You don't even work at it at all. You can just get an answer. It's like.
Yes.
Of course, we
You
can
have to
consider
know how to
cheating.
combine those, where to use those equations, where to use these theories. You have to, the task of human being is to figure out which method you need to pick for your current problem.
Okay. Paul, you have a question?
Yeah. You can see now the people can only, like, the technology and the robots are only helping people, and like they helps people in working and industry. But when the robots and the technology comes to humans' life, and can robots and technology replace human?
Yes, I once read a report on the internet about a survey people did, which showed that there's a trend that the population of industrial robot and service robot in people's life will someday make some problems more severe, like the unemployment problem or something like that. There are worries about these things, but I believe we still need a lot of time before we are going to face these problems.
Okay. All right. One last question, then we'll finish.
So do you believe that nowadays the computer science directions, automatic machines is better than the original kind of watches with no batteries? You didn't get it? I was not. On my mind.
Okay, all right. Well, as long as you know the answer by yourself. Well, is that all? Well, could we just go ahead and finish? Yes? All right. Thank you very much, everyone.